another banger, man.
Jordan's
Look,
signature move was
beat the dirtiest player in NBA history, bro. Hey,
Kareem had the sky.
we already know about them Pistons.
And Hakeem did the dream shake.
Isaiah. But hey, we gotta talk about another guy.
Signature moves were elbowing, hip checking, planting feet in the opponent's landing area, and flopping after the slightest hip checking.
His signature move was elbowing.
Bill Laimbeer's signature moves were elbowing, hip checking, planting feet in the opponent's landing area, and flopping after the slightest contact. They called him the Prince of Darkness, the Axe Murderer, his heinous, and the Darth Vader of the NBA.
They called this man the Prince of Darkness?
Laimbeer put the bad in the bad boy Pistons.
I don't believe this. Laimbeer gets in a fight once a week.
Everybody
also, shout out to NONSTOP, man. He made this video. So, hey, shout out to Buddy. You feel me? Shout out to him.
It is guts. And most of his opponents still hate him today.
I never really liked Laimbeer in any social situation.
No.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's because he was a dirty player.
However, despite his well-deserved bad boy reputation, Laimbeer isn't just some fist-swinging brute who punched people because he couldn't really play. In the 80s, Laimbeer was the best defensive rebounder in the NBA, and he was one of the first centers that could make threes and was a better free throw shooter than Michael Jordan. He was also super smart.
Yo, why they say he's a better free throw shooter than Michael Jordan, bro? Yo, stop capping in this video, bro. Yo, one thing I will not let you do is cap.
And the majority of his antics were thought out and served a purpose to distract his opponents. I don't fight. I agitate, then walk away. So, how good was Bill Laimbeer actually? And
that's how white people shit. I agitate and walk away.
That is how white people shit. And to answer that question, we need to go back to 1957 when Laimbeer was the president of a big glass manufacturing company, and his son Bill Jr. had an easy life, living in the richest parts of Chicago and Los Angeles. When he started playing in the NBA, he joked that he was the only player in the NBA with a worse salary than his father. But there were benefits and pitfalls to Laimbeer's privileged upbringing. Bill was always super confident, and he believed he'd be super successful in any profession. It just so happened that basketball was his calling, especially after he reached 6'11" and led his high school to a state championship.
Yo, I didn't know his daddy had that money.
However, Bill was also spoiled and used to everything coming to him easily. As a freshman at Notre Dame, Laimbeer flunked out and had to attend a technical college for 2 semesters to get his grades back up, which stopped his basketball career for a year and a half. And when he did return to Notre Dame's lineup for his junior and senior years, he didn't impress. Just 7 points and 6 rebounds per game didn't leave anybody in awe. So it wasn't surprising when he dropped to the 3rd round of the 1979 NBA draft as the 65th overall pick.
I forgot they had how many rounds they had? 3rd round? Oh, I could have made with the NBA back in the day. Oh man, I was born in the wrong time. I could have been in the league back in this time. I would have been at least the 4th, 5th round
for several reasons. Laimbeer wasn't particularly fast or athletic, and he wasn't a good post-up player. While all the great NBA centers had polished post moves and could make shots over both shoulders, Laimbeer didn't want to be like them, and he wanted to shoot jumpers like guards. The Cavs were reluctant to even offer Bill a contract, and when they finally did, some 2 months after he got drafted, he had already signed another deal with Brescia in Italy. And in Europe, Laimbeer thrived, averaging 21 points and 12 rebounds for one season, after which he returned to the NBA at the age of 23. And as a rookie, Bill did fairly well, averaging 10 points and 8 rebounds for Cleveland, despite being second in the NBA in personal fouls. And when he played against Detroit, the Pistons GM Jack McCluskey noticed that the Cavs center played harder than anyone and fought for the entire game, even though it was a blowout. Impressed by Laimbeer's toughness, McCluskey traded for him at the next trade deadline, where he would team up with the rookie Isaiah Thomas. And when he got to the Motor City, Laimbeer blossomed. In the 1982-83 season, his first full season as a Piston, Laimbeer made the All-Star team, averaging 14 points and 12 rebounds per game. But back in those days, his reputation was far from what it became several years later.
You know, when Laimbeer first came to the Pistons, early on in his career, like guys was just turning around and literally taking their fist and punching him right in the face.
Yo, he hit him with one of them ones. Now, whoever he was mad at Laimbeer right here, he was mad.
He was just turning around and literally taking their fist and punching him right in the face. And only years later, after taking so many punches in the face. When he started to hit back, he realized, oh, these guys aren't as tough as I thought they were.
y'all
But when he started hitting back, then it became a problem.
Isaiah Thomas said on the
He
Bill
said y'all
Simmons
became,
podcast. And while you should take Isaiah's words with a grain of salt, because he's talking about his teammate of 13 years, there's definitely some truth to his words. But despite all the hits he took, Bill was a fierce competitor, and he didn't want to miss a single game. He missed just 9 games during his career, mostly due to suspension. Still, in 1984, Laimbeer was still not the most hated athlete in America, and the Pistons were this fun, up-and-coming team that nobody took seriously. But that would soon change, because that season, Chuck Daly became the head coach and immediately brought results. Detroit had the best offense in the NBA, and after 7 long years, they finally made the playoffs. Laimbeer was an all-star for the 2nd consecutive season, with 17 points and 12 rebounds per game, shooting an excellent 53% from the field and 87% from the free throw line. However, despite a great season, the Pistons lost in the first round to the Knicks and Bernard King, who averaged an unreal 42.6 points per game.
Bernard King averaged 42? Oh, he was better than Jordan. The fuck you talking about? Hey, Bernard King was better than
highest
Jordan.
Scoring average in a series ever at the time. And
Man,
even
what?
though they lost,
42?
it was clear that the Pistons were on the rise. With a young team, 2 All-Stars in Thomas and Laimbeer just entering their prime, and a great head coach, the future was bright for Detroit. In 1985, they added Vinnie Johnson, who would prove to be a pivotal bench player. And the Pistons finally won in the playoffs for the first time since 1976, sweeping the Nets in the first round.
To Jaminski, top of the key. Pop. Oh, it's over. The Pistons have swept New Jersey.
Still, in the second round, against the mighty Celtics in their prime, Detroit fought a good fight, but the Celtics were a much better, deeper, and more experienced team, advancing in 6 games. In Game 3 of that series, Robert Parrish elbowed Laimbeer in the face, and when Bill came up, Parrish punched him again for good measure.
Tripucka from the baseline. Laimbeer is on the deck. And
get out my face, you white boy!
Nah,
Laimbeer, nah. They was doing Laimbeer dirty now. Nah. Laimbeer, I respect you, brother. I didn't know they was doing you this dirty, my brother. I'm sorry for not knowing this, my brother.
Certainly wasn't completely innocent, and the Celtics fans could argue that he had it coming. But still, it wasn't like Parrish was a sweetheart either. And this playoff series was the tipping point of the hatred between Laimbeer and the Celtics that would last for years on the court and still exists today. But in 1986, the Pistons GM McCluskey proved his brilliance once again, drafting shooting guard Joe Dumars and trading for Rick Mahorn, who was one of the most physical and hard-nosed big men in the league. Laimbeer struck gold with Mahorn because he finally had a big, strong guy to back him up and fight.
Y'all know what it is now.
That season, Laimbeer led the league in rebound.
That's a scary duo, Mahorn and Laimbeer. Oh yeah, I'm not going down there.
Averaging 13 boards per game, along with an efficient 16.5 points per game. However, the Pistons regressed, losing to the Hawks in the first round of the playoffs, despite Laimbeer averaging 22 and 14 in the series. In 1987, the Pistons traded Kelly Tripucka for a 2-time scoring champ Adrian Dantley and drafted forwards John Sally and Dennis Rodman to further strengthen the front court. And it worked. The Pistons won a franchise record 52 games, and Laimbeer made his 4th All-Star team with averages of 15 points, 12 rebounds, and an insane 89.4% free throw shooting.
He was shooting 90% from the free throw line? I ain't know Bill had that. He had that thing. And them rich white kids always got that
jump. It was an NBA record for a center. Detroit breezed through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
Isaiah Thomas out there getting buckets.
But in the Eastern Finals, they played another series for the ages against the Celtics. After Boston won the first 2 games, the Pistons won Game 3, largely because of Laimbeer. After a hard foul from Bill that sent Larry Bird to the ground, Larry couldn't stand it anymore and started punching Bill on the ground.
Damn! Oh my, he fouled! Oh, they getting loose! They getting after it! Oh yeah! Oh, this is what we came for. Yeah, Bill Laimbeer was not
on the ground.
He fouled the hell out of that nigga. He started punching on Buddy.
After which, he got ejected, which secured the win for the Pistons. Detroit then won Game 4. And in Game 5, it looked like the Pistons would win, as they held a 1-point lead with 5 seconds left. Detroit also had possession of the ball, and all they had to do was inbound when Isaiah made the costliest turnover of his career.
To Detroit, Bird steals it. Johnson,
way
up Boston, 1 second left.
Other than the Celtics' win and great play by Bird, this game will also be remembered for another fight between Parrish and Laimbeer. And once again, the Celtics center couldn't take Laimbeer's antics anymore, punching him 2 times.
The tip by Parrish.
Wham, wham,
Gets the ball, and Parrish takes Laimbeer to the ground.
Even though he wasn't ejected from the game, Parrish
He wasn't
was suspended
ejected?
for Game 6, and Detroit used his absence to force a Game 7.
That's what you supposed to
To
do.
a 7th game at Boston Saturday.
On some
And
Draymond
even though
Green
Laimbeer
shit.
indirectly won 2 games by taunting Bird and Parrish and getting them ejected.
On that Draymond Green, LeBron type shit. Hey, damn, that's tough. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day. Okay, come on, man.
In Game 7, Bird pushed the Celtics to a close victory and another finals appearance, despite Detroit averaging 4 more points than Boston in that series.
The Boston Celtics will go to the finals again.
But because they were so close, Laimbeer and the Pistons entered the 1988 season hungrier and more dangerous than ever. Under Daly's direction, the Pistons adopted a philosophy of 94 feet defense, which meant full court pressing and defending the entirety of the court. Up until that time, most NBA teams ran back on defense and allowed the offensive team to cross half court unbothered. It was basically a gentleman's agreement. But the Pistons didn't care.
Yeah, we ain't
Their
going for
whole
that shit,
strategy was to pressure, bump, and agitate, unlike any other team ever had, led by Laimbeer. As a result, they soon became the most disliked
Oh
team.
my God, look at that squad. That squad look like they. No more look like they own some shit. Like, what?
The NBA. While Detroit didn't lead the NBA in techs, they led the league in hip checks, forearms
Damn.
to the ribs, cheap shots to the
Forearms
groin,
to the ribs.
shoving players midair, and
Damn.
fouls after the whistle. But the main reason why
Damn,
the
they did
Pistons
charge
were
Wild
considered dirty was Bill Laimbeer, who continually put his feet in the players' landing areas after a jump shot, trying to injure the opponent, which made him arguably the most hated player in NBA history. But Bill and the Pistons weren't bothered by what others were saying, because their plan was working. Detroit won a franchise record 54 games, with the second best defense in the
Good
NBA.
shit.
And when the playoffs came, their intensity was unmatched. The Pistons first defeated the Bullets and then gave Jordan his first playoff whooping in the second round.
Jordan.
You know that, Jordan. Fuck is you doing?
And that's what we're talking about when the Pistons want to make Jordan pay.
Which led to another showdown with Boston. The Celtics had made the finals 4 years in a row at that point, and despite their core getting older, they were still the favorites against Detroit. So, to get into Boston's head, Laimbeer would be the first Piston to go out on the floor. He'd walk up to the leprechaun logo, spit on it, and smear his spit with his sneakers, which brought the arena to the brink of madness. But this time, the Celtics
Yo, I love that, bro. I love Bill
do
for that. I ain't
nothing
gonna
to
lie.
punish his antics,
That's funny.
as the Pistons finally managed to beat Boston in 6 games.
Hail to the new Eastern Conference Kings, the Detroit Pistons finally.
31 years it took them.
And in their first NBA Finals, Detroit squared up against another 80s dynasty,
LA
the LA
goof
Lakers.
ass.
Even though the Pistons were the underdog, after 5 games, they were leading 3 games to 2. But then, a disaster. Isaiah Thomas stepped on Michael Cooper's foot and severely sprained his ankle.
Hell yeah. He still played after that, though.
Down on
I
the
think.
court underneath the basket. I couldn't tell what happened.
It looked like his season was over. But then, despite being unable to stand on one leg, Thomas produced one of the craziest performances in NBA history. Isaiah miraculously kept playing. And not only did he play, he dominated.
Thomas
He
here in the
went and
third.
got buckets on him.
Thomas
boys.
off balance. Basket counts and a foul as he goes into the first row, and he is still limping.
Thomas scored 25 points in the third quarter
Ugh.
alone and finished the game with 43 points and 8 assists,
Telling you, that boy
keeping the
nasty.
Pistons afloat the entire game. With half a minute to go, Detroit was up by 1, and the Lakers went with a safe bet, deciding to throw the ball to Kareem to try to win the game with his trademark
punk
skyhook.
ass skyhook.
As Kareem was attempting the shot, the refs called a phantom foul on Laimbeer, who
What?
barely touched him.
Kareem. The old man goes
What
up.
foul? Nah, ref, bro. You paying for that. Rigged up. That was rigged up.
To make things worse, Kareem also traveled before the act of shooting.
Oh
But
my
The refs
God.
rejected all protests from the Pistons and sent Jabbar to the line. Kareem made both free throws and the Lakers had the lead. And after Dumars missed a layup on the other end, Los Angeles survived and forced a Game 7.
Ah.
In the deciding Game 7, the
Ah.
Pistons again had a chance to win. But with the hobbled Isaiah, the Lakers survived their late attempts and Detroit lost the championship.
The game ends. The Lakers have won it again.
After the NBA Finals, the NBA video department issued a VHS cassette with highlights for each team, and someone named the '88 Pistons video The Bad Boys.
Bad
when Isaiah
Boys.
Thomas heard what the NBA had titled the team video, he wasn't offended. He just gave the reporters his trademark smirk and said, "I guess we are the Bad Boys." Soon enough, the whole team
This is
embraced
tough.
this nickname. Even the franchise started selling Bad Boy merchandise. And if you thought the Pistons were dirty and physical up to that point, they were even worse in 1989. Detroit threw more punches than anybody. And if you wanted to score at the basket, you knew you were going to suffer a blow from Rodman, Mahorn, or Laimbeer.
Oh, they
And
had
Laimbeer
Rodman,
became the
Mahorn,
complete
and
opposite of the prototype NBA center. He
I'm
was
not
always
going in
allergic
there. I'm not going in the paint. Y'all can have it today, sir. I'm not going in there. Coach, I'm
to
not
having
driving.
his
That
back
shit
to
is
the
not
basket
happening.
and rejected
Every
the
Pistons
notion of
game was shooting
developing a
all
low
threes.
post game. So rather than change
That nigga Bill
Laimbeer,
Laimbeer had a
the
wedding.
Pistons
That
ultimately
nigga had
adapted
that.
their game plan to his
That nigga Bill
strengths.
Laimbeer had
Even
that
though he
wait.
shot threes before, the
I
1989
didn't know he had
season
it
was
like
the first
that, bro.
time he averaged
Why nobody
more
tell
than
Bill
one
Laimbeer had that
three-point
three-point
attempt per
thing?
game, making them at a decent 35% clip. He was one of the very few pick-and-pop centers in the
Bro, he was, yo, why nobody talk about this nigga? They talk about him like he was only dirty. Like, nah. He was picking and popping, killing y'all.
NBA.
Averaging 16 and
due to his
13
shooting
on y'all.
prowess, the
Rich
opposing
white
center
boy
was
doing y'all
forced
dirty.
to guard him outside the paint,
That
which
jumper
freed up
ugly, too.
driving lanes for
He
Thomas
hit that
and
bitch,
Dumars.
though.
The Pistons won a franchise record 63
Damn,
games that
63
season,
games?
and in the first round of the playoffs, they swept their arch enemies from Boston, who played without an injured Larry Bird. And after they swept the Bucks in the second round, came another clash with Michael Jordan and his Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. Because Jordan was by far the best player in the NBA,
Facts.
He kept it in bounds. Here it
Nigga
is
Jordan was
again.
nasty. That's nasty.
Chuck Daly knew that if they wanted to win, they had to put all their effort into stopping
gotta put him
MJ.
on the ground. Oh
So
my
Daly
God!
invented the Jordan
Nigga,
rules, a set of
what?
guidelines on how to guard Michael and stop him any way they could, legally or illegally.
Don't give them easy field goals. Make it tough. Make it tough. No easy field goals. It's the only way we're going to get the lead back. No easy field goals.
No
By the
easy
end of the
field
series,
goals.
Jordan probably ended up taking more licks than field goals scored, and the Bulls
That's a
simply
steal, bro.
couldn't
Fuck outta here,
match
nigga.
the Pistons' aggressiveness.
Not now.
Detroit won the series in 6 games and
They
secured
whooping on Jordan.
another finals clash
They was
with the
on
Lakers.
Jordan ass.
And in the finals, Lady Luck finally smiled at Detroit. After Byron Scott got injured in Game 1, the Lakers also lost Magic Johnson in Game 3.
And we have our first tie of the game, and Magic Johnson may have pulled a hamstring.
And with Kareem being 41 years old, the Lakers didn't stand a chance.
Rodman from Thomas.
Ugh, Dennis Rodman.
About that pass.
The Pistons swept them in the finals, and for the first time ever, became the NBA champions.
The Pistons are the basketball champions.
They finally got one.
In
Bill
1990,
Laimbeer
due to
had
the
that
expansion
window.
draft, the Pistons couldn't keep Rick Mahorn. But that only meant more minutes for Rodman, who won his first Defensive Player of the Year award. Despite his running mate Mahorn gone, Laimbeer continued to excel in extracurricular activities on the court, getting into fights with several opposing players, namely Charles Barkley.
Charles
who
Barkley.
hated Laimbeer more than anybody.
Charles Barkley
outside
wanted to put
Boston.
hands
And
on Buddy.
Even though the Pistons were average in almost every statistical category, they played unselfish basketball and were willing to die for one another on the court, which resulted in 59 wins and another
Damn,
number
another
1
59?
seed. In the playoffs, they once again gave Jordan a beating, defeating the Bulls in 7 games to reach their 3rd consecutive NBA Finals. This time they played the Blazers, and almost every game in the Finals was close. After 2 games, the series was tied, and in order to motivate his
Nigga, Ben
teammates
Laimbeer had
before
it
Game
wet.
3, Laimbeer deliberately ran over a photographer when leaving the tunnel. But
What?
because of their experience and tenacity, the
What?
Pistons beat the Blazers in the clutch of each game. And Laimbeer's 17 rebounds in the
Why the
deciding
fuck
Game
did he
5
run over a
likely
cameraman
swung
before the game, though? Like, what sense does that make? At what point are you trying to prove?
the series in Detroit's
hell?
favor, and they won their 2nd NBA title.
There's the shot. The Pistons are winners and still champions of the world.
And even though Thomas was the Finals MVP,
Of course.
it was really Laimbeer who got to the Blazers. Throughout the series, Portland's big men were so frustrated by Laimbeer's illegal screens, defensive
Illegal
charges,
screens.
and not to mention his usual holding, grabbing, and kicking when the refs weren't looking, he completely threw them off their game. For the 1991 season, Laimbeer averaged 2 3-pointers per game, making them at 36% efficiency. However, his overall numbers started started to decline. Detroit also lost a bit of steam, winning only 50 games in the regular season and barely winning their first 2 playoff matchups against Atlanta and Boston. Still, the Pistons reached another conference finals against the Bulls.
Yeah,
this time, Jordan and Chicago were ready for the Pistons' aggression and cheap fouls. They were younger, hungrier, and better, sweeping Detroit 4-0 and announcing the start of their dynasty. Before the final game was over, Laimbeer and the rest of the Pistons left the bench and walked past the Bulls in silence, not shaking their hands. It was one of the most memorable team decisions in NBA history, universally hated everywhere outside of
hold on. My question is, did they ever explain why did they leave though? Because I want to know why they left. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they want to shake their hands, to be honest, but
Detroit.
Pistons wasting more time in getting out of here. They left the bench, although there's 7 and 9, 10 seconds remaining. The Pistons just left.
And
hold on, god damn, come on, bro.
The end for the bad boys. In 1992, the Pistons lost in the first round. And in 1993, they didn't even make the playoffs.
Damn.
And as their careers were reaching an end, at the beginning of
I'm not sure so I can dumb at the end of the video. Come on, bro.
The 1994 season, the longest tenured Pistons, Thomas and Laimbeer, at the beginning of the 1994 season, the longest tenured Pistons, Thomas and Laimbeer, had a big fight. Laimbeer fouled Isaiah hard in a practice for the second time in 2 weeks, leading Thomas to punch Laimbeer in retaliation, breaking his hand in the process.
Damn,
everybody in the NBA was thrilled. Scott Skiles said that Isaiah couldn't have picked a better guy to punch, while Clyde Drexler responded that Laimbeer was a cheap shot artist and that he won't ever change, even for his teammates. Karl Malone said that if he ever had to play like Laimbeer, he'd quit the NBA. Which is pretty rich, coming from a guy who elbowed more people than anybody. However, Isaiah and Laimbeer were great friends, and they reconciled shortly after the incident. But in the aftermath of the punch, realizing that Isaiah's absence would kill the team's chances of making the playoffs and his own declining form, Laimbeer decided to retire 11 games into the season at the age of 36. So, how good was Laimbeer actually? And was he really the dirtiest player ever? The answer to the first question was not giving away them championships. In one interview, he said that he always knew that he didn't have the talent of Kareem or Moses Malone, but what he had, he used to the fullest. Despite a minuscule vertical leap and fairly slow feet, Laimbeer combated that by becoming a master of positioning and anticipating, which made him an excellent rebounder and help defender. He's the 3rd best free throw shooter ever amongst centers. He was a willing passer, and if he played in the modern era with more shooting, Laimbeer would certainly average more points.
No, so he had that wet.
Backcourt, long lob to Billy. He'll square up and gun left wing. It goes! Bill Laimbeer has 10,000 career points.
A 4-time All-Star, Laimbeer became the 19th player in league history to amass more than 10,000 points and 10,000 rebounds, and his 25% defensive rebounding rate currently ranks 34th all-time. And as far as his dirty play, you're damn right that Laimbeer crossed the line sometimes. But Bill was always pretty honest and level-headed about that, too. My job was to make sure you focused on me and didn't mess with our guards. We're in the entertainment business, and you want to give the fans what they want. If they want great plays, they look for Isaiah Thomas. If they want steady plays, they look for Joe Dumars. If they want comic relief, they look for me. Laimbeer
he knew his role. I like dudes like that. Rich white boy knew his role. He like, I'm gonna be dirty, I'm gonna be the grit. And he even had to be like, he could have been like, nah, I'll just wait till Dennis Rodman and, you know, John Sally them get there and they can just do that. Nah, he said, no, I'm a man up.
For the NBA, an anti-hero who the crowds loved.
He definitely was the dirtiest of all time.
It's undeniable that he was popular and put butts in seats. A longtime Pistons announcer, George Blaha, said this: Laimbeer rarely hit anyone, he just drove them nuts. He delighted in getting under your skin. He constantly was trying to gain not only the physical edge, but also the mental edge.
Yeah,
if he could make you lose your concentration, then he'd won. Because he never seemed to lose his cool. And most of his opponents share the same sentiment, like Kurt Rambis. I respect the guy. He'll do anything, whether it's flopping to get a call or agitating someone to get them out of their game. You gotta give him credit. We're not out here to win popularity contests. Everybody tries to do a little holding, grabbing, intimidating. But I don't think he's dirty. He simply does whatever it takes to win. And whether you like Laimbeer or not, you gotta respect him. He was a millionaire from birth, and yet he played every game like his life depended on it.
That's what's good though. He rich and he still had that hunger. Like, I don't care that my daddy had $1 million. I don't care. I'm gonna grind. I like that.
years, he received plenty back. And despite plenty of broken noses, cheekbones, and multiple other injuries, Laimbeer always showed up, missing just 9 total games in his entire career, always
tough,
ready
bro.
to help his teammates win games.
That's commendable.
Was
That's
Bill the
respectable.
dirtiest player ever? Probably, but he's far from the only master.
I think
of
he's the
dark
most
arts.
dirtiest
He just
player
happened
ever?
to be the best at it, and played in an era perfectly suited
can't
for his
name
antics.
nobody else.
But Laimbeer
Karl
never
Malone
really
was dirty.
cared how he'd be remembered anyway. The only people I care about are my teammates, my family, and my friends. People can say whatever they want about the type of game I play, but there's no denying that I'm a winner. They have to say that I'm a winner, a world champion.
No cap, bro. And I think he retired because he didn't want to go play on no other teams. Like I think only team he was gonna play for was Chuck Daly and the Pistons, bro. I don't think he wanted to play with nobody else. But bro, let me know in the comments if y'all think, bro, Ben Laimbeer was the dirtiest player of all time, bro. Let me know in the comments what y'all think, bro. If y'all think he was, y'all think he was. I don't think he might have been, but I can't really think of nobody else right now to say he wasn't. So I think he is. So you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna show you next, man. Y'all already know what's going on. No cap.